Welcome back to Doc's Hot Chocolate Forge. So today we're going to finish grinding the larger French bean so that it looks a lot like this one, which is ground and heat treated. And we're going to make some handles. Now this one is for the larger one. It's a little bit thicker in cross section than the other one. This is spotted gum. I've got a couple more blanks kicking around before I need to go scavenging for more timber. So with this, you totally won't be able to see it, but you want to keep your grain in the long axis so that you've got as much strength in the striking plane as possible. So let's get on with that and let's have some fun. Towards the end we will heat treat the big one, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So as with most of these, step one is to get rid of the scale. So we're going to wire wheel it. We've got a cup wheel on the angle grinder, so we're going to do that. So let's mask up and get cracking. So that's the grinding portion done. So we've essentially got the faces down to 400 grit. I'll hand sand those after I've heat treated. So now we're going to file in a nice chamfer around the eye and tidy up the inside of the eye, get rid of the scale and whatnot. So time to get the files out. Not having a nice chamfer around the eye of a hammer is one of the usual reasons why a hammer handle will break if it isn't a flaw in the wood. Because having too sharp an edge up here cuts into the wood and weakens it. Now this being the outboard side, it's a little bit less critical, but it's a good habit to get into. So the trick, if you want to call it that, to handles is to decide where you want your wedge curves to go first. So this is the main wedge curve. Okay. Now you'll notice for the cross wedge I'm not going anywhere near as far. That's because I'm going to drill a hole roughly where it'll be at the midpoint of the hammerhead. That hole will be just marginally bigger than the saw curve, so that when we put the wedge in it's unlikely to continue the split. Not impossible, but it reduces the risk of that. This one here we cut to about 3/4 of the hammerhead depth. We can always make it a little bit deeper if we find we need to drive the hammerhead on a bit further. Now this is the small hammer. So let's measure up how far we actually need to cut. French pins have the curved surface towards the hand with the step down on the outside. So, give it a couple of millimeters of extra material. So we want to cut to about there, which happens to be right about where I stopped my lines in the first place. We want to drill that hole out there. Once we've got the hole and that slot cut, we can then lay out the rest of the handle after we've fitted this. Because once you've got that, that governs whether or not you need to account for twist. Now I don't have a bandsaw, so I'm going to use a hacksaw because you want a reasonably thin kerf. You can always widen it a little bit by clamping it and cutting again. So I'm nearing the depth. That's about right. Go a bit further on the other side. Okay. Now we drill that hole. Turn this around, sorry guys. Could do with a bit of a charge. Guess what I forgot to do before I heat treated this one? Yeah, you guessed it. I have drawn these back quite a bit, but it's still going to be harder than I'd like. So I'm going to use one of my older files. This old round bastard can do this. So the idea initially is just to rough in the eye, the tenon for the eye, just till you can just get a little bit of purchase, and then you work from that. So having decided how far we're going to go down, do that. That's about right. Because we want symmetry, I'm just going to quickly want things to end. At this point, it doesn't have to be 100% accurate, it just has to be close. Okay, now, remove that. Now, this is just about as wide as the hole is narrow, so we have minimal to remove on the sides, which is less than ideal, but this is a hammer blank that I've got, hammer handle blank. The other one's a bit thicker, and will suit the bigger head a little bit better, so we'll run with that. So now let's remove that little bit of material there and there, and see if I start rounding this one up. side because we know the grain pulls a bit. Let's get that all the way down where it should be. A little bit off the line. Good. And that's about all we're going to do. That grain is a bit squirrely. That pull out stopped just shy of the line, so I've got lucky. Now, we want to just be able to get that in, so that's good. The shoulders here will nest up against this flare, so that'll be fine. So let's start rounding this up a bit. And I need to fix my vise. Alright, so here we go. It's all in, so we need to shake it a bit. Okay. Alright, still too white, good. Go to the first time, please. Look, it's definitely going just on sides. So, run away. Now, keep a little scrap around the droppings out. Okay, we're a little bit out square this way. Just about to take it off this side. We're also a little bit cockeyed. We'll just have to get a film. Right. Much squarer, you can see. something slight crack in the wood. There'll be problems if it gets to the other side, so it might be okay. Take a look up here, it's still a little bit out of scope. Oh, that is almost perfect. And not canted as much. So, let's go. So now we're starting to get biting down here. And that's where the eye is meeting the fresh flare. So getting a little bit down here. Definitely some there. So that tells us there's too much here. So now we're getting signs of bottoming out, so you can see the edge of the hammer eye here. So that's where we need to work. No more up here. I have about 4 millimeters further to get in. So, now that we've got the head fit up, it's time to do the handle. Now we are going to have to waste probably about yay much because of that crack. So if we start with that premise, again, this is one of those things where the more you do it, the better you get at it. Now this is width-wise, it's pretty close to what I want anyway. So let's take the head off and we'll carve this bit out, and then we'll begin shaping it on the sander, aiming to leave a bit of a collar up here. And hopefully, when we come time to fit up, we'll have gotten rid of enough of that split, because the split doesn't actually go all the way through, even up here, even up at this end, it doesn't always go all the way through, so it ends just on that corner. So hopefully it's sound enough in there that we can get away with that. So now that the handle is hogged out, I've cut down. I've widened this one by clamping and then recutting. Now we need to make the wedges and sand this so it gets rid of all the lumps and bumps and gets it down to a nice grit. So I'm going to go with wedges of contrasting colour because why not? Made some spares because we've got another handle to make yet. So I'll start putting stuff away. Okay, so got to get rid of that little bit. The cross wedge, so it goes in. We're going about halfway. That'll give us a reasonable amount. And that one will go most of the way, which is good. So let's oil this. So we're not going to get much of a chance to get oil into this area and afterwards. So for this bit, it's best to do this over a solid surface like an anvil, because as you drive the wedge in, you also work the hammerhead further on. Now, you've got to be careful to keep the wedge on line. Okay. we're going to get that much further. We might. Don't want to create so much tension that I actually break the top off. So now you have to cut to match the kerf that you made originally. Just have to get that started. Oh, that's gonna split. Ugh. Alright. So as you can see, the wedge is split, which is unfortunate. But it is driving in. If this wasn't for myself, I would definitely replace that. Alright, let's do this. Well, it survived. Down below the smoking point. Okay, so we've just quickly run the faces on 400 grit. It's still 200 or 100 and something degrees. So that shouldn't take too much heat. Shouldn't take too much heat into the cheeks to bring the faces. This is a variant on heat treating it on the drift that did the eye, which is the alternative to this. Alright, I think that's it, we're done. I think that face is now right where we want it colour-wise. Bring a bit more heat into the peen. But effectively this means that the eyeballs are now sufficiently well cooled that it shouldn't make any difference. They won't be the weak point. So it is time. That's that seated. The handle looks good. So let's put the wedges in. So the first one we're going to put in, if we can do this. Oh, this thing is still quite warm. Okay, so like before, I don't think that's going to go on any further. Okay, now you need to trim that down, otherwise we'll end up making a mess out of things. The important part to starting this wedge is to make sure that you've split this wedge. I'm sure it's as central as you can get it, because once it starts going in, you're going to have very little to no chance to adjust it. course it has gone off center a little bit. Well, I hope some of you found this little tutorial on hammer handling useful, somewhat informative, and maybe answered a couple of questions that you might have had. Now, the 3 hammers that I've got on the anvil at the moment, this is one of the first hammers I made in the smithy at my current location. So it is the first hammer I made here at this location. It's a German pattern crossbeam. It weighs just on a pound. Just. This one, 2.5 pounds. This one, 3.5 with the handle. So you can see the progression. Now, with this one, on this anvil, the rebound is such that it's difficult to control. It just flies up. So I found that using a 2.5 pound hammer actually negates that mostly. So I figure something in this range is probably ideal for this size anvil. So look out for the next video where I will be trialling these hammers out on this anvil to see how well they perform. So if you've enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up, feel free to share on social media, and as always, if you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you hit that subscribe button. When you do, don't forget, ring the notification bell. So get out to your shop, put some new ideas to use, but above all, stay safe, and I'll catch you for the next one.